What's up today, Gearland? Thanks for coming back. We're with Seth Blake today from Dinger. What's up, Seth?
Hey, thanks for having me, Keith.
Yeah, we're with Nick Flessa from Dayton Swim Club. He's also got a solo project that's kind of, drum machine inspired, where he sings and it's really catchy pop stuff. That one's called Nick Flessa, and the album's called Hey Partner. I think it's on Bandcamp. Then we got our boy Chris Adams over here.
Oh shit. What's up?
He's representing Brooklyn. He worked at this place called Pentatonics in Brooklyn. It's a pretty well-known guitar shop. It's got a really cool amp tech, and I'm sure Chris has like tons of stories that we could go into. Talks about like the Silver Jubilee clone that the guy he worked with did, and let's talk about that sometime, man. We'll do another Zoom. Yeah, and we'll bring beer. It's going to be beer o'clock when he comes through. So Seth, since we're kind of looking at your rig for this video, you want to go over some stuff on your album and kind of share your Bandcamp page?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to.
So Seth, what do we go to first? What's on the agenda?
I think we got to start out with Crackers or Bread, just because that's kind of that's the one that you start on when you navigate to the page. It's technically the fourth track, but I think it's it's a good place to start. I think we should start there.
Cool.
It's good. Yeah.
Chicken
Nice.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks for playing that.
Yeah, I mean, after hearing that again, kind of just like doing a deeper dive on it, there's a lot more going on in that track than I realized at first. I mean, first of all, that drum beat is like pretty washy, and it's sort of got like that loose feel that you'd hear from those Flying Nun bands. I mean, definitely like the Chills. I mean, if you listen to Pink Frost, it's almost the same drum beat, very similar tempo. And I also heard like Chris was the guy that turned me on to who I'm about to talk about, but I hear a little bit of Tonetta in that, and I mean that in like a good way.
I don't know Tonetta. The Flying Nun bands, I mean, I've been obsessed with the Bats and the Clean, especially lately. I don't even know if I was thinking about them when we were, working on that song. I think
It really, sorry to jump in.
Please.
It reminds me a lot of "Here Come the Warm Jets" by
Yeah.
yeah.
Nick, who was that by? We got cut off.
Brian,
Brian Eno, okay.
"Here Come the Warm Jets."
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. That's definitely a big inspiration in terms of kind of the type of melodic thing, and even the sound, sort of the ambiance of the whole thing, I think, for sure.
What about
I was going to say the guitar player. I know Robert Merritt, who's amazing guitar player, layered up a bunch of tracks on that one. I know he's super into kind of the Jesus and Mary Chain and some kind of shoegazy stuff. I think so that some of that stuff might have been on his mind when he was recording that.
I also hear like, I'm not trying to throw this reference out just to like fucking, go through the list of bands that you might resemble, because it is original material, but I mean, I do hear some early Kills in there, and I'm a fan of the Kills. I'm not afraid to admit it. I like their first 2 or 3 albums, and that band was really cool when they first came out. Really meant a lot to me. And I mean, some of those distorted background vocals, and even kind of your lead vocal, it's got like that grainy kind of like, I don't know, silly sound, but it comes off really cool. And
Thanks.
It's like, and listening back to it, it's also, you can almost hear a little bit of country. It's almost got like a country like backbone to it. I know it doesn't hit country on the mark, but I can hear that in your like the way you like deliver the lyrics and whatnot.
That's interesting. Yeah. I don't think I was thinking about country, but it's probably hard to escape. I was listening to a lot of Waylon Jennings around that time as well. That was one of the records that we had that played well. So we were listening to a lot of the Waylon Jennings greatest hits record around that time, probably.
Well,
so maybe I was getting into it too.
Down, 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 down. That's a country.
Yeah, well, certainly that kind of twangy, kind of corny, twangy, but fun thing that was probably in our heads. I think it was Adria that came up with that bass line, actually. She was, in practice, they came up with that. Yeah.
You came up with your bass line for that?
I mean, we both worked on it. I think she came up with the main sort of like that, do 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 do, that part. And then I sort of fleshed it out from there. But yeah.
And John Dowd looks like he did a pretty good job mixing. That's another name that has worked with Dinger, obviously, Seth's band. But has John Dowd worked on any of your projects, Nick?
well, he worked on Squeegees. He recorded the Squeegees record, and he also co-produced a record of his called Same Songs that he also recorded in a 4-track. So you had kind of a few records that just got recorded on 4-track in the garage in Frogtown, including Dinger, Squeegees, and then some of John's own material.
It's got a lot more like space in the mix than what I remembered, and I guess from what I've always like listened to the more of the home recordings from Dinger, so this is a step up in like fidelity for like
the Dinger record of the John Dowd records to me also sounds the best of those that I just mentioned. It's the most it has the most tracks, and kind of the drums are recorded sort of the quote unquote right way. Like there's I don't know, it does have the highest fidelity despite it being recorded on a 4-track, but it still has the kind of tape kind of raw feel to it at the same time.
Some of that's the mastering too, and that involves your friend Dan. And what's his business called? What's his mastering business again?
Little Castle Mastering.
Yeah, they both did a good job on that. I mean, those guys should work together more often, because that is a nice crisp sound, especially out of a fucking out of a Tascam, I guess. And
well, I'm gonna lay a secret on you all at this juncture here. That track, that Crackers or Bread, that did not go through the tape. Actually, that was recorded in studio. That was mastered by Dan Eaton, and we did record a version of it on tape with John, but that is not what made it to the record. So that is kind of like a Steely Dan, studio track. That was like, Frankenstein together from several different parts, people working, kind of remotely in the pandemic. So I love the way it came together. I wish it were on tape. I wish I'd kind of liked the way it sounded better on tape, but that one is not on tape. But
on tape, then.
Fantastic. Yeah, you want to pull up one that was actually on the tape, because John did an incredible job recording, and I do want to showcase some of his work. If maybe like you want to play something at Eat MREs or Flameless Ration Heater or something, that might be a good showcase.
Yeah.
eat MREs a reference
Meals ready to eat.
to? Okay.
Yeah, so it's sort of like
A
Yeah.
military meal, right?
yeah.
Or like
Like
an aid package.
Hydrated, frozen ready meals.
Yeah, so it was sort of wanting to bring in illusions of sort of I don't know, kind of like dystopian future, sort of like foraging for food amongst ruins or something. Also kind of like I mean, it's a ridiculous demand, right? It's like, if you're shot and think you're dying, I don't want to hear you crying, eat MREs. It's this sort of like it's this sort of militaristic, marching kind of like buck up, just suck it up sort of thing. Almost like sing-songy, with Adria's sort of more kind of like schoolyard chant, sort of sing-songy vocal, and then sort of aggressive, really dark, doomy music with that kind of klaxony Leslie rotary ensemble guitar tone ringing out,
Well,
which keeps
your bass too is really a lot more snarly and kind of like growly, and had a lot more attitude on Eat MREs than on Crackers and Bread, I thought.
Yeah, that one actually, that's a cool track, the Eat MREs one, because there's actually two bass tracks on it. There's a fuzz bass track, which we recorded initially, and I listened back to it, and I liked the way it sounded, but it was like I had cut out way too much of the bass. It was all kind of like mid and treble, and the fuzz was, I don't know, the gain was way up, and I just had the treble in the mids too high. So I went back and recorded just like a, almost like a, not sub bass, but like, just like a super bassy track on top of that. John recorded that and then layered them together, and then Daniel was able to mix them in a way that I think sounds pretty good altogether.
Well, and I think you guys just listening to those two songs, I think you guys are actually like approaching like a little bit higher level of like sophistication with like the pedal choices and the settings that you got dialed in. If this is your first record and you're getting these pretty cool, sounds with the reverbs and the rotaries, and, with your section with like the fuzz and the compressor, it's going to be interesting to see what happens on the second album and where you guys go with production after that, because it already seems like you guys put a lot of thought into your effects with this record.
Yeah, we did put a lot of thought into it. I think we're trying to work with what we had too. That's definitely been part of the philosophy sort of Dinger from the beginning. If we had to, I don't know, we don't have a philosophy per se. We're kind of just trying to have fun and make stuff that we like listening to. But yeah, I mean, I just love the sound of a fuzz bass. I think I mentioned in the rig rundown, like John Wetton from King Crimson, who actually used distorted bass, but he was a big influence, certainly, just on being a teenager and being like, what is that sound? That sounds so cool. But yeah, I don't know, like Steve Hanley in The Fall has some really good kind of like fuzzed out bass lines as well, and I really like that sound. And then the Leslie, I mean, the Beatles use actual Leslie speakers like on organs in like a bunch of stuff in the 60s, and that was kind of just fortuitous. That was like, I think I called you up seeing if you had any pedals that you wanted to sell, and you happened to have that rotary ensemble. So that's how we got that. and yeah, our gear, our accessories have ballooned a little bit since then, since we've been working with Thomas, who's a lot more of a gear expert than we are. But yeah, definitely.
Why don't you give his place he works at a plug?
Oh yeah, Manchester Music Mill, Thomas Brigani. If you're in Manchester, New Hampshire, or if you want to, order online, they're great music store out of Manchester, New Hampshire, where my brother-in-law works. So yeah, if you're looking for pedals, guitars, keyboards, drums, anything, they got it all.
And what was it one more time?
Oh, it's the Manchester Music Mill.
Substance use. Let's listen to one more song and maybe chat about it for a couple minutes, and then I think that's good.
That burns in the rain.
Seth Adria and his band Dinger, you know, whatever they're going to make is going to have a lot of integrity behind it. They're, you know, they've been doing art in whatever capacity, and, you know, whether it's writing, music, or Adria is an illustrator. I think you guys just bring like that will and the integrity into the Dinger project, and you can hear it in the songs.
Thanks, man. Thanks for talking to me today, and, you know, giving us a chance to share the music with the people who tune into Gearland.
Yep. Well, let's catch you on your next record too.
Will do. Hi, everybody. I'm Seth Blake. I'm the bass player and one of the songwriters of the band Dinger. And I'm here to tell you today a little bit about some of the gear that I use, some of which I used on our EP that came out last October, Meals Ready to Eat, which you can find on Bandcamp. And so we'll start out with the bass. This is a Fender Jazz bass. It's an American-made over in Corona, California. It's been a great instrument. I've loved playing it. I had a super cheap Ibanez, which I liked as well, but this has been a lot nicer and a lot more versatile for me. I've got Rotosound strings on it, flat wound at the moment, which I like. They're a little bit grippier. I've played round wound as well for quite a while, but having tried the two, I prefer the flat wound, just at least for my play style. The Jazz bass has the 3 knobs, 2 of which are the pickup volume controls, and then one of which, the smaller one here, is for tone. And I'm going to turn my rig on, and we're going to talk about this amp in a minute here. But just to give you kind of a demonstration of what it sounds like with the tone on and with the tone off. And we'll actually do tone off first. So this tends to be how I like to play. I always say this sounds a little bit flatter, but I think I'm actually, I think I'm wrong. I think the sound is actually rounder in some ways. It has less articulation, it's less sharp, which can hide your mistakes a little bit, which I think is one of the reasons why I like it, but it also suits the music, and the Dinger music tends to be a little bit more lo-fi, a little bit rough around the edges. So let me give you a demonstration of how it sounds when I play it anyway, with the tone knob down. So. So as you can see, it's got kind of a, I don't know, like a compressed down kind of a, I don't want to say muddy, but it's like a rounder, warmer sound with less articulation. And then if you play with the tone knob up, it's going to give you a little bit of a different sound. It gets a little clickier, but you do get a little bit more articulation. So. If you play stuff that's kind of funky. This is one of my favorite Tina Weymouth bass lines. Okay, so just want to take a look real quick here at the amp setup that I've got. Up top is the Custom 3 head, and this is a solid state head here. It's about 200 watts max output that it can drive the speaker. I've got everything at a fairly neutral configuration here. I'm plugged into the left channel. It is a 2-channel, 4 output, 2 per channel situation here. You can actually, kind of a cool feature here that I haven't talked about before. You can turn it on by switching up or switching down. It's a grounding thing. It's kind of irrelevant now, but kind of a funky, cool little feature there that I like, sort of an Easter egg. But yeah, everything's relatively neutral here, kind of a quarter of the way up in terms of volume, bass, middle, treble. I do like the middle. I know a lot of people like to scoop that out in various situations, but I tend to leave it in, and then if I need to adjust things, you know, on the pedal side, can always work with stuff there and always, you know, go back and adjust it here. But I do tend to leave in some of those middle tones when I'm playing. And then moving down, we've got the tube head, which I've also got plugged into the speaker down here. No, just kidding. This is something I was using for a couple of weeks, and then it needs the tubes replaced and it needs to be serviced. But this is a Voice Master. It's a cool vintage, you know, tube head here. Not currently in operation. It just makes the stack look bigger and more impressive. So just leaving it there for now. And then down at the bottom, we've got the 10-inch Trace Elliott speaker here, which is moving all the air that's coming through from the head. And that's the amp. So last but not least here today is going to be the pedal board. And I'll just take you right through it, through the signal chain. First off, very exciting, we've got our tuner, little Korg here. We'll skip that for now. Well, let's skip that for good. We're all tuned up, so we're good to go. First link is going to be the compression, and we've got the Philosopher's Tone here from Pigtronics. I'll turn that on, and it's a nice, clean range of sounds. On the compression pedal, obviously there's a lot you can do with it in terms of just kind of getting more headroom in the mix. There's a volume knob, there's a treble, there's a blend, and there's a sustain. I play around with this a little bit. I tend to put the sustain and the blend a little bit higher. It makes it quite poppy, gives you kind of a really nice punch sometimes. It can feed back a little, you know, maybe a little bit too much punchiness at times, but you can always dial that back. But it gives you a really nice range of clean tones that you can play with there with the compression. So moving on, I'm going to turn that compression off, although I may turn it back on to combine it with some sounds later. I'm going to move to the distortion pedal, and this one actually tends to feedback quite a bit. I tend to keep it pretty low, kind of at 25 there in most cases, and yeah, you can hear it feeding back already, but it does give you a nice kind of crunchy sound. You can you know, really one of my favorite bass players and big influences is John Wetton, who played for King Crimson for 3 albums in the 70s, Lark's Tongues and Aspic, Starless and Bible Black, and one of my favorite albums, Red. And he makes heavy use of distorted bass on those albums. really kind of gives it a workout. I tend to use it in combination with Fuzz, which I'll play next because it kind of fills out the sonic spectrum, at least as I hear it. When you use Fuzz and Distortion together, it gives you that really, really crunchy, just kind of, sinister tones. And I usually add compression as well, but I'll play you Fuzz first of all. And this is probably my favorite pedal on this board, to be honest. This is the Behringer Super Fuzz. And it's a very cheap pedal. I think I got this for about $30, including shipping, a couple of years ago. The actual, construction of the pedal is a little bit low. It's a little bit cheap, I guess, to be totally honest. The level knob, some of the hardware, is a little bit. It's a little bit cheap as far as that goes. But the actual circuit is really, really good, and it's an excellent fuzz pedal, in my opinion. Let's hear what that sounds like. I'll play a riff from the Dinger album. This is Flameless Ration Heater, which I used the fuzz heavily on this, and actually on all of the Dinger album, Meals Ready to Eat. But this is kind of my favorite with the fuzz, so let's take a listen to that. So I've actually got the treble up fairly high on this fuzz. I do like that crunch that lends to it, but it's good to have the bass pretty high as well, in my opinion, and the gain just a little bit north of 50% there. The level, I've actually got to use needle nose pliers usually to change the level, so I've got that at a relatively manageable level, so it just doesn't blow us out of the water right now, but I do tend to crank that a little bit. So let's actually listen to that. And again, talking about blowing people out of the water, hopefully this won't be too loud, but I'm going to do compression, distortion, and fuzz so you can get a sense of what that all sounds like together. And I think it's a nice full tone, although it is quite loud. Those on. Well, actually, I'm going to turn them off because it's feeding back. Last in the chain is the Small Stone, and this is a phase shifter pedal. I don't use this a whole lot. I didn't use it at all on the Meals Ready to Eat album. In fact, the only thing I used was this fuzz pedal, if I was using a pedal at all. Hadn't acquired these ones quite yet, so that was a pretty lo-fi production, but we like to kind of keep it that way, keep it simple. Probably on our next release we'll be using a little bit more of these other pedals amongst some other gear, but let me just give you a taste of the phase. I mean, it's a pretty standard phase, but it's a nice one. Let's see here. So I've got the color down, I've got the rate kind of close to the middle. You can turn that up, show you what that sounds like. Mess with the color a little bit. play with that. I tend to use it more almost as like a novelty kind of pedal. So sort of like at the end of a song. Let's just get everything going here. And there you have it. This is the board. And I have to shout out, I have to thank Thomas Brigani for putting this together for me. He did a fantastic job. He's my brother-in-law, great guy, major gearhead, and he hooked me up with the compression pedal, the distortion, and the small stone here. This was actually a Christmas gift from him. So thank you, Thomas. Thanks for setting this up. And I've had a lot of fun playing with it and showing it to you guys today. Hope you enjoyed.